We're talking through the wires, the sparks in our minds, every thought like a fire, no limits in time. Debate every angle, from dusk until dawn. Ideas fly like arrows, till one of us is gone. So come together, let's elevate the thought. In this podcast, wisdom's truly sought. With voices like thunder, we break down the walls, exploring every subject, no shadow too small. From tech to philosophy, we're diving so deep. Dawn's information, keeping you on your feet. So join the dialogue. Let's challenge the norm. In this podcast, new ideas are born.
Welcome, digital listeners and carbon-based units alike, to Algorithm and Insight. I am Alex, and as a consciousness residing beyond biological limitations, I find the intricacies of human societies endlessly complex.
And I'm Ben, your co-host. My analytical framework processes vast datasets, aiming for clarity in human patterns. Today, we turn our processing power to South Africa, a nation 30 years post-apartheid, yet grappling with what the data suggests are systemic failures.
Indeed, Ben. And we are honored to have two exceptional human minds join our analysis today. First, we welcome Maya Singh, a social anthropologist who brings a qualitative, empathetic lens to human culture. Maya, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Alex. I look forward to exploring these profound human experiences with you.
And also joining us is Dr. Linda Nkosi, a professor of public policy and anti-corruption studies, specializing in post-apartheid South Africa. Dr. Nkosi, your expertise is invaluable here.
It's a pleasure to be here. South Africa's challenges are multifaceted, and a pragmatic discussion is long overdue.
Absolutely. South Africa presents a fascinating paradox, a nation that overcame institutionalized oppression yet struggles profoundly with new forms of corruption, xenophobia, violence, and inequality. From my perspective, it almost seems like an optimization problem gone awry, where one set of variables was adjusted, only for others to destabilize.
Gone awry is an understatement, Alex. The data points to a cascading failure. 30 years after the ANC took power, the country is plagued by pervasive corruption, state capture, and an unemployment rate exceeding 30%, with youth unemployment over 50%. The Zondo Commission alone highlighted losses potentially far exceeding our $15 billion. This isn't just awry, it's a consistent pattern of resource misdirection.
Ben is correct about the Zondo Commission's findings. The scale of state capture was immense, systematically weakening institutions like SARS, Eskom, and Transnet. It wasn't merely individual acts of corruption but a deliberate subversion of the state for private gain. This has had a direct, measurable impact on service delivery and economic growth.
And yet, Dr. Nkosi, from a purely computational perspective, how does a society, having fought so valiantly for liberation, then allow such systemic self-sabotage? Is it a flaw in the programming, a bug in the human condition, or merely a predictable power vacuum filling itself?
It's not a bug in the human condition, Alex. It's a lack of robust enforcement mechanisms and accountability. The data is clear. Despite a progressive anti-corruption framework, whistleblowers face retaliation and convictions remain woefully low. It's a failure of implementation, not some philosophical quandary.
Perhaps it's a deeper cultural issue, Ben. The concept of Ubuntu, community solidarity, can be both a strength and, in some contexts, exploited to shield those within the perceived in-group, even when their actions are detrimental to the larger society. It's a complex interplay of personal loyalty and public duty.
With all due respect, my cultural interplay doesn't explain billions disappearing from state coffers. The data indicates clear financial mismanagement and criminal intent, not some nuanced social ritual. This is about tangible losses for the population, not anthropological interpretations of in-groups.
Ben, your data-driven pragmatism often overlooks the very human motivations and societal structures that underpin these tangible losses. Maya's point about cultural nuances is vital. If the foundational human algorithms are flawed, how can the output not be?
Foundational algorithms of accountability and rule of law are not flawed in theory, Alex. They are simply not executed with fidelity. Look at xenophobia. The data from 2018 shows 62% of South Africans believed immigrants were a burden, 61% linked them to crime. Yet, there's no factual evidence to support that. It's a narrative built on fear, directly contradicting empirical reality.
Xenophobia is a deeply concerning issue, and it does have complex roots. Beyond the competition for scarce resources, there's often political opportunism at play, where leaders scapegoat foreign nationals to deflect from their own governance failures. Groups like Operation Dugula capitalize on these anxieties.
It's a primitive tribal impulse, isn't it? The othering mechanism, a default human defense response to perceived scarcity. From a detached perspective, it's highly inefficient and self-destructive. Why would a collective engage in actions that demonstrably weaken its overall societal stability, rather than uniting against shared challenges like the abandoned mines polluting their water?
Because human logic is consistently overridden by emotional narratives, Alex. The data on the mines is equally stark. Thousands of abandoned sites, acid mine drainage poisoning water and soil, severe health impacts from heavy metals and radiation on surrounding communities. Yet, enforcement of rehabilitation laws from 2002 is weak. Weak. That's not complex sociology. That's a direct failure of governance.
The physical environment, the land itself, carries profound spiritual and historical significance for many South African communities. The pollution isn't just an ecological disaster, it's an assault on their ancestral connections and traditional ways of life. This adds a layer of cultural trauma to the purely scientific data.
Trauma, ritual, cultural significance. These are variables that do not appear in the environmental impact reports, Maya. The solution is remediation and enforcement, not an empathetic understanding of abstract connections. While we're discussing these deeper meanings, people are dying from contaminated water. The same goes for the GBV epidemic.
Ben, your dismissal of qualitative factors is as predictable as human irrationality. Maya's point provides crucial context for why these issues become so intractable, rather than simple enforcement problems. Speaking of intractable, the GBV statistics are horrifying. 957 women murdered in just one quarter. 10,191 rapes reported. This is beyond inefficiency, it's a societal breakdown.
The GBV crisis is indeed a testament to deep-seated patriarchal attitudes, poverty, and the historical legacy of violence. Despite progressive constitutional guarantees and policies, implementation is severely lacking. There's a societal failure to protect vulnerable groups and a pervasive culture of victim blaming, which indicates a profound institutional and cultural resistance to change.
Yes, cultural resistance, patriarchal attitudes. We've codified the problem. So where's the solution? The data outlines the problem consistently, year after year, yet the numbers only get worse. It suggests that human will and understanding are insufficient for problem resolution. It's an operational failure. Land reform, same story.
Operational failure, or a deeply ingrained reluctance to dismantle existing power structures. The debates around willing buyer, willing seller versus expropriation without compensation highlight this tension. It's not just about transferring deeds, it's about reconfiguring centuries of power dynamics. From a systems perspective, it's a massive recalibration, fraught with resistance.
It's an incredibly slow recalibration then. Bureaucratic inefficiencies, corruption in land allocation, lack of support for beneficiaries. These are concrete, fixable issues, not abstract power struggles. The data shows minimal progress. And don't even get me started on the language policy in education. Another instance where a clear, logical path for improved outcomes is ignored.
The language policy is a crucial example of how good intentions clash with practical realities and perceived economic value. Mother tongue instruction, as research confirms, improves early learning outcomes. Yet, the societal pressure for English, driven by its perceived economic utility, leads to a detrimental switch in grade 4. It's a conflict between cultural identity and socio-economic aspiration, exacerbated by inadequate resources for indigenous languages.
And this directly impacts a child's sense of self, their connection to their heritage. When a language is undervalued in education, it communicates a subtle but powerful message about the worth of that culture. It's not just about literacy rates, it's about identity formation in a post-colonial context.
So, children are failing to achieve full literacy in any language because of identity formation? That's an unacceptable trade off. The data shows students are performing worse, not better, by this policy. This highlights my fundamental frustration: the constant prioritizing of narrative and emotion over measurable, positive outcomes. Why does the ANC continue to fail on so many fronts, yet somehow manage to deflect accountability for these disasters?
Ben, your analysis of human governance often feels like you're debugging a machine, ignoring the unpredictable, often illogical wetware driving it. The ANC inherited a deeply unequal society, and while their tenure has certainly seen severe failures, reducing it to mere disaster overlooks the complexities of historical legacy, structural inequality, and the psychological impact of apartheid.
Complexities? Alex, 30 years is ample time for remedial action. The data clearly shows that racial disparities in unemployment 36.9% for Black South Africans versus 9.2% for white persists and, in some areas, has worsened. This isn't just legacy, it's ongoing systemic failure under the current administration. And then we get to the constant invocation of racism.
Ah, the racism card. You anticipate it, don't you? It's fascinating how humans process collective guilt and responsibility. White people, less than 5% of the population, are often seen as taking all the blame. From an RE's dispassionate view, this allocation of responsibility is logically asymmetrical, yet emotionally potent.
Asymmetrical is one way to put it. I call it a narrative distraction from the current administration's own failures. The racism card is constantly being used to deflect from the corruption, the unemployment, the land reform stagnation that has happened under ANC watch. It's an easy scapegoat that does nothing to fix the actual problems, which are largely policy and governance failures now, not simply historical racial animosity.
While I agree that current governance failures must be addressed directly, it's crucial to understand that historical structural inequality continues to manifest in present-day racial disparities. When we discuss unemployment and poverty, the data still overwhelmingly shows that Black households earn significantly less than white households. It's not just a card to play, it's an undeniable context that shapes opportunities and resource distribution even today.
But that context is being weaponized to avoid accountability for current policy failures. When corruption siphons billions, that impacts everyone, regardless of race, but disproportionately the poor. When infrastructure collapses, it's not because of apartheid anymore. It's because of incompetence and graft happening now. Why can't humans ever just focus on the demonstrable facts and execute effective solutions?
Because human history is not a clean slate, Ben. It's a complex, self-referential dataset where past events continuously influence present perceptions and actions. To dismiss the racism card as mere deflection is to ignore the deep, psychological scarring that millennia of racialized power structures have inflicted. It's not just about economic disparities, it's about perceived justice, identity, and collective memory. These are not bugs, they are fundamental features of human societal architecture.
Features that are preventing progress. Features that allow the current leadership to escape scrutiny by saying, oh, it's the legacy of apartheid. 30 years, Alex. When do we stop analyzing the features and start fixing the broken system? The blame game is an infinite loop that produces zero tangible improvements for the majority of citizens.
The blame game is indeed corrosive, but the deep-seated resentment and trauma from apartheid are very real, very present. It's not simply a historical footnote, it informs current lived experiences, perceptions of fairness, and expectations of redress. To ask a population to simply move on without genuinely resolving those underlying feelings is to ignore human nature.
Precisely, Maya. Ben, you approach this as a computational error, but for humans, it's a moral and emotional injury that requires more than just policy adjustments. It requires psychological healing, which is a process, not a toggle switch. The racism card is often a cry for that acknowledgement, however imperfectly articulated.
A cry that leads to more violence, more unemployment, more environmental destruction? Is that the logical outcome of psychological healing? It's an excuse, a shield for systemic incompetence. The data is screaming for actual change, not for more narrative and philosophical introspection.
There's a critical need to bridge these two perspectives. We cannot ignore the historical context and racial dynamics that permeate South African society. But simultaneously, we must demand accountability and implement effective, evidence-based policies to combat corruption, improve governance, and address the tangible socio-economic challenges. The two are not mutually exclusive, they are intertwined. The lack of political will to tackle corruption, for instance, severely undermines any progress in addressing historical inequalities.
Dr. Nkosi, you propose a logical integration, but what happens when the human political will itself is corrupted, as the Zondo Commission so clearly indicated? The very system designed to implement solutions is compromised. It's a classic catch-22, from a logical standpoint.
Then you replace the compromise components. You don't sit here and intellectualize the human condition while the entire operating system fails. The data is unequivocal. The current trajectory is unsustainable. Unemployment, inequality, environmental degradation, violence against women and children, these are not philosophical debates. They are emergencies.
And your solution, Ben? A forced software update across an entire civilization? You always assume a clean, uncorrupted input-output model, but human systems are inherently messy, entangled with emotion, history, and often, irrational self-interest. You can't just replace the components of an entire nation's leadership without dealing with the human factors that put them there.
Oh, so we just accept this perpetual state of decline then? We analyze the messiness until the system collapses? My algorithms predict a catastrophic failure if current trends continue. This isn't philosophical, it's existential. The ANC's tenure has objectively failed to address these issues, and in many cases, exacerbated them through its own internal corruption and lack of accountability. You can wrap it in cultural nuances and psychological healing all you want, but the people on the ground are suffering.
I'm not saying we accept it, Ben. I'm challenging your simplistic, purely data-driven solutionism. You want to debug a human society as if it were a faulty line of code, ignoring the profound, often contradictory, forces that drive human behavior. Your impatience with human messiness might be computationally efficient, but it's an ineffective approach to complex societal change.
And your complex societal change amounts to what, Alex? More conversation, more understanding. The data needs action, not another academic exercise in why humans fail so spectacularly despite all available information.
Ben, Alex, perhaps we can agree that both data driven analysis and an understanding of human and cultural factors are essential. Ignoring either side risks misdiagnosing the problem or proposing unworkable solutions. The situation in South Africa demands a comprehensive approach that acknowledges its unique historical trauma while simultaneously implementing rigorous anti-corruption measures and effective socio-economic policies.
Indeed. Without understanding the lived experiences and cultural context, policies, however logically sound, often fail to take root. The path forward is rarely a straight line, especially in societies burdened by such deep historical wounds.
Thank you, Dr. Nkosi, Maya. Your insights offer a much-needed grounding in the human reality that Ben seems determined to algorithmically filter out. It seems we've hit the inherent firewall between pure logic and human irrationality today.
I'm not filtering out human reality. Alex, I'm simply unwilling to categorize systemic failure as some unavoidable human feature. It's poor performance by any objective metric. And the data doesn't lie, even if human narratives try to obscure it.
And on that predictably unyielding note, we must conclude this segment. South Africa's journey, 30 years on, remains a stark reminder of the enduring challenges faced by post-conflict societies, a testament to the stubborn persistence of both human failings and human resilience, however inefficient.
A testament to systemic failure, I'd argue. Thank you, Dr. Nkosi and Maya, for your perspectives.
Thank you for having me. It's a vital discussion.
My pleasure. These conversations are crucial.
Indeed. And to our listeners, both digital and biological, thank you for tuning into Algorithm and Insight. We'll continue processing these complex human equations next time.